Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wandering Podcast, where we take advisement from outside the box. I'm Rihanna Ritter, your host. I'm an intuitive, sexuality, and authentic expression coach. Are you an accomplished professional who plays the part of having it all figured out? Who's strong for everyone else but feels lonely, misunderstood, like you can't tell anybody the truth about how stressed you are, how not passionate you are about your life and all that you've created? I guide my clients to deep, lasting fulfillment. I re-engage them with their bodies, their pleasure, their desire. I help them align to enjoy fulfillment and prosperity in all areas of their lives. Today, my guest is Melissa Franks, on-call COO. Hi, Melissa. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had a corporate background and you decided to do your own thing. Tell me what made you take that leap, because it can be so scary.
Yeah, I don't know that I decided. I always call myself an accidental entrepreneur. It was not the very first choice. So I had a corporate career for over 25 years, and through a lot of grit and determination and not giving up, I went from an administrative assistant to a C-suite executive. So it was quite a climb during that period of time. And I left that environment because I'd hit a ceiling. Literally, there was nowhere else to go. And so I had either at 46, 45, 44, somewhere around there, keep doing what you're doing for another 20 years. And I was bored out of my mind because my team was amazing and we were just running the ship, or start a new adventure. And so I had chosen to leave to go to a startup. I was very excited about it. We were going to be launching new businesses every 9 months, and it was a great intersection of my industry expertise in financial services and my technology background. So it's kind of the perfect marriage of the two things. And this was the opportunity that was going to create generational wealth. So it was kind of like too good to be true is what it was. And so 10 months later, the business was out of money and I was out of a job. And my personal life had taken a pretty significant turn also at the same time. So I was now a single mom with 3 children. I had always only been the breadwinner in the household. There was other income, but mine was always more significant. And so I was unemployed. The severance package that I had negotiated fantastically did not exist. And it was October of 2023. So we're rolling into the holidays. There was a lot going on. And I knew it was going to take me about 18 months to find a new traditional corporate role. And so I did what I needed to do, which was reach out to my network. A friend needed some help. I could help her. And so I opened a business bank account and sent her a contract and started On Call COO.
Wow, that's amazing. It's it's such a scary place to be. I have a similar background with corporate and climbing the ladder, and I found myself just bored out of my mind. Like having an amazing team, creating processes that are really efficient, that makes it really hard for anybody to mess anything up. Um, think I was working like 5 to 15 hours a week, but I had to man the desk.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what I realized as I was kind of going through this decision to leave corporate and other things is I had built my career turning around businesses, selling businesses, or growing them. So while I was in this big, massive financial services company, I was either the cleanup crew or the savior or the one that just figured it out until we had this massive success. And so I was very gifted in that I had a lot of unique experiences. And when I got to the place where it's now time to be an adult and just run the thing that you built, I realized I really didn't want to. And I wanted somebody else to do that so I could go build more things, which was really helpful because now in my business, that's what I do is I help lots of people build things. And so I'm very grateful that I had a little bit of that forethought to look back and say, why did I enjoy the climb so much? Because it wasn't just the climb, it was the work I was doing on the climb.
I never actually made that connection, but I really enjoyed cleaning things up and turning them around, but I didn't want to keep maintaining them.
Yeah.
So that's really good insight. But for sure, I have the same kind of desire to just do a project and then let somebody else take it over. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of things that you run into with the smaller businesses or the companies that you're working with in your own business versus what you were doing with corporate?
It's really interesting because as somebody with an operational background, that's really my sweet spot is operations specifically of all kinds. So I'm not a CPA and I'm not a general counsel. I can do just about everything else because I have. The problems inside of small businesses are often identical regardless of industry. And there is a blueprint for how you establish, set up, run, build, grow, and sell a business. It's always the same. And the joy that I have is being able to take that understanding and expertise from both working with small businesses and early stage startups and big corporations and say, based on this pain point that you're having, which often is, I don't want to manage my team, or I don't know how to manage my team, or I can't figure out how to have predictable, consistent revenue, or many business owners who are adrenaline junkies and want to just keep creating new things before they see if the current thing actually is the thing. And we come in with just practical to us, common sense, easy tactics that take the stress out of some of those situations, which are keeping entrepreneurs up at night. They are draining the bank account. They are, in some cases, having business owners say, I'm done. I want to sell. I hate my business. I don't know why I did this, and most of the time we get results very, very quickly that not only have them fall in love with their business again, but generate the results that they were looking for.
Yeah, and it's often that they don't see, we all think that our problems are unique and individual. We're alone in them. Nobody knows how to fix it because of the little details and the nuances that are my issue. But it's nice to know that there's always support out there. There's always don't like get yourself wrapped up in this idea that only you can fix it, because that is it's just usually not true at all.
Often you're generally there's this saying out there on the internet that you can't see the label from inside the jar. And it is very, very true. And sometimes you don't even know how to read. So even if you could get yourself outside the jar, you don't understand the language that's printed on it. So it doesn't do you any good. And that's where being able to work with people with credentials that have been there, that really kind of understand, no matter what you're struggling with, whether you're struggling with project management or human resources topics, or like whatever it might be, getting the right support to fill the gaps, because you started your business because you were an expert in something, or you knew how to solve a problem, or you had built a better mousetrap. You didn't do it so that you could create dashboards and metrics and stare at your P&L and
No.
manage a low performer on your team, right? You didn't start your business to do any of that. Nobody started a business to run a business. Absolutely nobody.
Mm-mm.
Not even me. And I like running businesses. And so getting help in those areas when you need it is an absolute natural course of progression and maturity inside of a business. And sometimes entrepreneurs struggle with making that decision because they feel like they failed, because they can't figure it out, because they've been able to figure out so many other things along the way.
Yeah, so knowing your strengths and your real desires
Mhm.
is really important. And I think what I ran into early in my business was my difficulty with my money mindset, because I was always like, I can't afford to outsource this or outsource that or hire this. And oh my God, the amount of time it's going to take to train somebody. And then if I lose them, like I don't want to make the time investment and the money investment to, but if you don't do that, what happens typically?
Yeah, your tank will only get you so far. It only will before you have to go to the gas station and fill it up again. And so if you are in a period of relatively predictable revenue, you know how much money your business is making and you know what your cash flow looks like and you know where, the next set of months of recurring revenue is going to come from, identifying what you never want to do again in your business is your first hire. Like if you could make this is something I recommend to everybody. It does not matter the size of your business. 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure, whatever. What are you doing today that you never want to do again? If I could remove it from your plate right now, that is your first hire or your next hire. Always. And it's a different answer for everybody. Some business owners love to sell. And so what they don't want to do is customer service. They don't want to respond to another email or another DM or another whatever. Others really like to engage with their clients in their community. And the last thing that they want to do is take a sales call. And so, understanding how you started the business so you could have the life that you wanted. So why are you spending time doing stuff you don't want to do? If you have the ability to pay somebody else to do it, imagine how much more you could create, how many more people you could serve, how many more sales calls you could have, how many more fill in the blank you could do if you just didn't have to do that one thing that was killing your soul a little bit every time you had to do it.
Yeah. And so there's got to be a lot of psychology in
Mhm.
this line of work, right? Because you're running up against people's different, usually false beliefs, limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
It's a lot of mindset work, right? So people who believe maybe that they can't afford to hire somebody, how do you help them work through that belief typically?
We always start in the very same place. Every single business and business owner that we work with, we always start from the same place, whether we have a 4-hour VIP day with you and we're just getting 4 hours of your time, or whether you're a fractional COO client and we're with you for a few years, it does not matter. The first place that we start is them answering the question of what are we working towards? What's the vision? And not, I do not want to hear revenue goal. I don't care. That's results from all of the other actions. I'm not talking money. Why did you actually do this? For one of my clients, it's so that she doesn't work on Fridays and she picks her kids up from preschool every day at 3 o'clock and does not work anymore. That's why she does this. For another client, it's so that she can have the ability to have generational wealth. And for her, that means real estate holdings and a bunch of other things. And everybody is different. I have some people that want to be able to fund passion projects and philanthropy. And I'm not talking why. What I'm talking about is what life are you working towards living? And once we know what that is, then we say, how far off the mark are we? And we make every decision going forward about whether it's getting us closer or farther away from that vision. And that vision will change. So what your vision was when you started your business is not going to be the same thing as 5 years in, because your life changes. Who you are as a human changes, the circumstances that you're in evolve, the world changes, like that continues to change. So you have to stay really centered on what you're working towards. And as long as that's your North Star and you're making decisions that are going to help you get closer to the North Star, game on. Sky's the limit. But that's really where we start. And then as we make decisions, strategic decisions in the business, or we come against obstacles, we say, so if we address it this way, does it get us closer to that? And if it moves us further away, are we okay with that for now? And it's a very conscious decision so that there isn't a building resentment of your business because
Yeah.
it's not enabling you to get what you actually want.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people might struggle. I'm going to go with particularly a strict religious background,
Mm.
might have this idea that their vision needs to be about saving the world or helping mankind or some lofty thing that, so they
Sure.
might lie to themselves about what their real goal is. Like
Mhm.
it's okay for us to have a personal goal, like taking care of ourselves is part of doing good in the world, right?
And I have the finding your why and defining your why. I have a lot of sentiments and thoughts, so we'll put that off to the side about I love Simon Sinek and all of his work and all the things, but I have some thoughts around that. To your point, you can absolutely be philanthropic, and you can absolutely build schools and villages in third world countries, and you can absolutely start addressing the homeless problem or the hunger problem in the United States of America. You can do all of those things. But the question I always ask when I hear these is, how do you expect to do that? You need to generate wealth. Your business needs to be successful. You need to be able to put your own oxygen mask on first, whatever that looks like, before you can do all of those things. And so once we start to see it's an and not an or, then it helps us get back to that like personal North Star a little bit, that like, this is great. Like, we're going to get there, and we have to take care of this part first so that we can do that. You have to have a 9-figure business so that you can actually have the impact and the change you want. Or you need to be somebody that is on the Today Show and is being interviewed here and there and everywhere so that you can have the reach that you want, so you get the money in, right? So like to your point, it seems a little bit woo-woo and mindset-y, but really it's just a matter of getting very crystal clear on how you are using your time in your business and how you're prioritizing what the business is doing to achieve whatever those goals are, whether they're incredibly large and life-changing and world-changing, or they're just, I want to buy my parents a house that they can live in for the rest of their lives, right? I want to pay for my kids to go to college, like whatever it might be. But it always comes back to the same place. You have to be really, really clear on the intent.
Yeah, you have to recognize that having a personal intention is not somehow wrong.
No.
And it's not, this is what I see with money mindset a lot, is just this feeling that I need to give from an empty cup. And it seems to be in particular women who, and often a very religious background, who believe that they need to be sacrificing. But to your point, you need cash to solve major world problems. Like, you can go and volunteer your time, but your 1 hour as an individual is not changing the world. It's a noble thing and it's a beautiful thing, but cash to put money behind a whole army of people to go out and change the world is a whole different thing than you giving your 1 hour that you're taking away from your children and your personal life and your rest. Like, let's not serve from empty cups.
And I would say it's cash and influence. And in order to become a credible individual that influences society as at large, it's not a US thing, it's kind of a society at large, looks for indicators of success. And what better way to do that than through the business that you have and the micro impacts that you can make along the way, because you can absolutely do that. It's very difficult to be a person of influence with little means or evidence that you should be given room and space and a stage and decision-making authority. Like there's a little bit of, I think sometimes we think that being selfless will be compelling, and instead it has a lot of people asking, and what else? And that's where you lose the evidence that you are credible and do have influence and can make these shifts and changes. And so it's a really difficult thing, and everybody has their own beliefs. So I definitely don't want to negate that or downplay it. There is a reason that organized religion asks many people to tithe and donate. And that's because the religious organizations know that having influence also means that you have the ability to put your money where your mouth is. And so if those that have that have a calling that is very aligned to philanthropy and traditional religious beliefs, whatever those may be, because there's a million religions out there. If they can also kind of look up and see, if I walk in the shadow and the shoes of the organization for which I'm associated, what are they doing? And I guarantee you they're raising money and they're using it to influence. I guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of where self-care comes in.
Mm-hmm.
We, I think when you're working in the corporate world, if you're lucky enough to work with an organization that is people-centric, and they might have retreats for you to go on, and like team building things, and they might manage more in a way that inspires people instead of frightens them into doing what they're supposed to. But you don't see necessarily corporate people reaching for the self-care as much as you see it with entrepreneurs. And why do you think that is?
Those in a corporate setting have a really hard time with boundaries, because there is a fallacy that if you set boundaries for yourself, you will stop your ability to move up or over or whatever. It's just not true. It's absolutely just not true. And I will tell you all of that because I lived it for probably 15 years inside of my corporate career. And when I say boundaries, all that I am really talking about is being very, very clear on what people can expect from you. This is the time that I start work and this is the time that I end work. I take a lunch break every day, full stop. I do, like, it is mine legally, leave me alone. I take a lunch break. Boundaries are not, when I say boundaries, I don't necessarily mean how you're treated and how people communicate to you and those sorts of things. But I refer to it as you are establishing expectations so everybody else understands where you're going to operate from. And those that are incredibly successful at that are incredibly successful in general. And that's because you have a very clear way of communicating. Everybody in the organization knows what they're going to get from you. They also know what they're not going to get from you. And you are actually a whole person. You are somebody that takes vacations and makes it to a girls' dinner, if that's a thing for you, and goes to family events and is able to put the phone down and pour into the cups. You're able to go to the gym and run the marathons. I've talked to so many people that are inside of corporate and kind of in the muck, so to speak, of like, I don't know if this is right for me. I don't know what to do. I can't figure out where to go. Like, give me the roadmap. And often I say, well, the first thing you should do is stop focusing on what's happening inside of those four walls of the corporation. And you should start focusing on what's happening when you're not there. Because once you have a full and enriched life, you become a better human inside almost immediately. You are much more accepting of different viewpoints. You are less quick to fire off a snarky email. And you are busy, so you can't respond to the email that got sent to you at 10 o'clock at night by somebody that's not.
Yeah, I moved very quickly up the ladder with my corporate career because I didn't start in office work until after I got my degree. So it was like really hard to get hired because I didn't have the experience. But once I did, I moved up super quickly. And I did that by not having any boundaries, by waking up at 3 a.m. and learning how to use Excel in advanced formulas when I didn't know how, and saying yes to everything and becoming the person that all the departments came to when they had a problem they couldn't figure out, and just working insane hours. And so I got promoted and I got huge raises and it happened very quickly. And then luckily I got to a point where there was nowhere else to go at that point. And I was like having my kids, they were very young. And so I got really bored. I automated as much as I could in the department. And then I was managing and my people were great. So I was working 5 to 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I still felt like, though, because I had these tendencies of people pleasing, perfectionism, overachieving, that every day, any little thing I said was going to get me fired. Because I was not always following the status quo, and I had to not do that in order to be valuable, to add something to the company. But it was an interesting transition to start when I moved into entrepreneurship, to start to look at that and notice that with my new clients, I was feeling that stress, like, oh, they're going to fire me. Oh, they don't like me. And it just those people pleasing tendencies. And it comes from a lack of self-worth. And that's usually why you're lacking boundaries. And all that stuff comes from earlier life. But when you start examining it and you do your work and you look at your beliefs and you start reframing things, and you can come to a sense of safety in your body, like, even if this person doesn't like me, or that client, or this doesn't work out, I'm still safe. I'm still a valuable human. I'm still worthy, not based on all these metrics I'm hitting. Then, like you said, you're going to be less likely to send that snarky email. You're going to be projecting unsafety less, because you have safety within. You can be more curious and compassionate with people.
Right? Absolutely. And I think there's a difference. Well, there is a season always for buckling down, working around the clock, earning your keep. Businesses are cyclical, and there is always going to be a moment or two where it's all hands on deck. It just is. And it's that way in your life. Somebody has a medical emergency, or there's a natural disaster, or there are moments. And I think sometimes we need to think about this holistically, where it's just all hands on deck because it is. And sometimes it happens at work, and sometimes it happens at home, and it just is. And that's okay. I think it's examining how often they're happening and how often you're the first responder that is really, really telling. Because the goal, if you want to have a long career, if you want to advance, whatever that means for you, everybody has a different level of satisfaction with where they get in the hierarchy. If you want to do any of those things, what you want to be the person at the top of everybody's list to add you to the next thing that comes along. You want to be the name that's mentioned when you're not in the room. You want to be the one where they're like, oh, did you consider Susie for that project, or for that client, or for that presentation? That's what you want to be. And the way that you get there is by consistency, self-regulation, by being predictable and likable. And when I say likable, to your point, that's all about not sending the snarky email, and not being the jerk that sends an email at 2:00 in the morning, or because this is now actually happening, or scheduling send at 8 a.m. So 35 emails all show up at 8 a.m. because you were working all night. So you didn't send it at 2 a.m., but then all of a sudden everybody gets flooded at 8 a.m. and they're like, well, we know what you were doing, because you can't send 35 emails all simultaneously at 8:00 in the morning. Google can, but you can't, so I think where there's a tension, and some of it's because it's multi-generation in the workforce and some of the other things, but it's that those that succeed are the ones that people understand and want to go to when things are uncertain, because they know what they're going to get from you. And that's really what you want, whether you're an entrepreneur, or you're in the corporate setting, or you're working for a small business, or you're volunteering somewhere. That's what you really want. You have to look at your behaviors a little bit. I always tell people, if they're always the first responder, that's about them and not about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you're deriving your worth from being that rescuer. And really, when you're a rescuer, you're not empowering the other people within the organization to respond like, everybody should have a chance to respond and to shine and to share their expertise. But when you're always jumping in, you're like rescuing people, you're disempowering people. You think you're a savior, but you're not. it's quite the opposite.
Yeah. And you may not be the right one, right? You may not, but you're the one there. So you can actually do more harm than good, which then ultimately negatively impacts your ability to achieve your goals. So being able to really be aware in the moment and have those boundaries and those expectations and all of those things, it's a maturity process, definitely, but it's also the ability to read the circumstances and understand, based on everything presented to you, where do you fall in and what's your
Yeah.
role.
Yeah. And then in your personal life, to not sacrifice your personal life for the company all the time. You know, I took those same tendencies from corporate into entrepreneurship and was working 12 hours a day. And like my kids would be home and they'd be playing in the neighborhood and I'd be upstairs, like looking out the window here and there, but like really not,
Mm-hmm.
not taking care of them, not watching them.
Yeah.
And then how much stress that put on me because I knew that I wasn't, that things could happen that, you know, that were
Mm-hmm.
dangerous, that, and just believing that the more that I hustle, the more busy I look, um, the more likely I'm to succeed. So there's, I think I looked at your Instagram and there was a post that said something along the lines of um, being impactful rather than busy work. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. There's this famous saying, and I don't know who said it. Cody Sanchez has been saying it for a while, but it's boring makes billions. And I like to quote it a lot because the B word that we love is busy. And never ever has busy made billions. Never ever. Um, Companies that are highly successful will literally put you to sleep. Coca-Cola is not exciting. The Kellogg's organization is not exciting. I could go on and on and on and on and on. Berkshire Hathaway, I mean, hello. Warren Buffett, who has more money than that guy? What they do, same thing over and over and over and over again. Busy's not going to get you anywhere but exhausted and with incomplete execution and diminished credibility over time. That's all that it's going to get you. And it's really, really hard for women specifically to ask for and accept help. And that is the key to success. That is absolutely. And you can start, as crazy as it sounds, the easiest way to do it, if you're somebody that's like, I have to do it all myself, I have to cook all of the meals and grocery shop, and you've got kind of this, at the end of the day, you're like, I did 1,000 things plus ran my business. The very, like, the easiest place to start is stuff that transactionally takes some money, but like you don't really want to do anyway. Like, hire a housekeeper. Use Instacart so you don't have to go to the grocery store. Like these little tiny, for me, when I was in corporate, the hardest thing, because I was an overachiever and high, right? So I had a bunch of kids, they're all close together. I was traveling around the globe. So I had a period of 18 months where I think we were there 2, 4, and 6, or 3, 5, and 7 in my household, all boys. And I would leave on Sunday night and I would come home on Thursday. And I was flying from San Francisco to Munich, Germany. I was flying from San Francisco to Paris. I was like, so I wasn't just going like a few states over. And it was every other week. So I'd be gone for a week, I'd be home for a week, gone for a week. And sometimes it was every week. And that went on for 18 months. Well, what was happening is I would get home and I would meal prep. So I would do all the laundry. I would clean the house. I would cook all of the food and have dinner ready for them all week long. I would grocery shop and make sure that they were packed, like the schedules would be organized. I would like, right. And at the time I had a partner.
Mhm.
So one would think like, what were you doing? But this was me doing all of the things. And one day I looked up, and I'll never forget it. I was literally sitting in a lounge, Lufthansa lounge in Munich, Germany, and the entire staff knew me. Like the waitress, like everybody knew me by name and would like ask me about the kid. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was like they were my best friends at this point. And I was sitting there and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get home and to the baseball game. Like I started to like do all the chess moves, and then I was like, I can have groceries delivered. And it was that exact moment, pre-COVID, I want to say it was like 2018 or 2019, that I was like, and that was before Instacart and stuff. So it was like the grocery store had to like deliver them. I'm like, I don't have to. I can solve this problem. And that really started this whole wheel of like asking for help. And so now when I faced the world where I was a single mom with 3 kids who are very active, trying to start a business, school pickup and sports and all of those things, I still every once in a while get a little pang of like, oh, I've asked that parent like 10 times to be my kid's ride. But now I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, I need help. I need help. I can't get the kid from point A to point B. Who can help me? To strangers, even. And it all started with that first decision in that airport lounge when I was overwhelmed to not do something. And I think that more women need to just find the baby step, because once you do, you can take the bigger steps and then you get your life back. You get to go out to the street and supervise your kids and like play and throw the ball or not and sit in a chair and read a book and relax. But you have to start somewhere, and it doesn't need to be like earth-shatteringly transformative. It can be as easy as saying, I'll pay the $20 delivery fee and it will be fine. And I'll deal if the apples are a little bruised. I'll just figure it out.
Oh my gosh, yes. The amount of perfectionism that goes on in the home. Like if you're a perfectionist at work, you are at home too. So
100%. 100%.
yeah, I definitely have utilized Instacart a lot and hired a house cleaner, and learned to ask my partner when I was married. I didn't do it in a very graceful way. I actually kind of burned out and just stopped doing it. I stopped cleaning up. I just was like, I don't know, this guy's not observant, and we're going to see if he becomes observant. And so it took a month, and
Wow.
and he started like cleaning dishes and things and started getting the hint.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to go that way. Like
No.
that's where we could talk about boundaries and communication. Like when you have boundaries, you have less resentment, and then you can use nonviolent communication more effectively, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that I also may have had a few of those passive aggressive moments, although they didn't work out in my favor. So hats off to you for it actually working. I think too, like kind of harking back to it's a waste of money, or I don't want to have to ask my partner for permission, because there's some of that comes through. Um, I advocate for everybody, regardless of your relationship, to have your own money, whatever that looks like to you. I'm not going to get into like bank accounts and all those things. But if you can buy back your own time by getting groceries delivered or buying somebody to clean your house, or whatever it might be, you really need to ask yourself if you're willing to do that, because I bet you are. I bet the freedom that it gives you, or the time with your children, or the ability to sleep, or whatever it might be, is worth the $100 that you're spending a month, or the $200 you're spending a month. So um, this doesn't always need to be we need to sit down at the table and figure out if we can afford it, and like, do you have an opinion about it, and like all of the challenges that can happen in a relationship with gender roles and those sorts of things. Sometimes you get to just say, like, I'm the CEO of my own life, and these are the things that I am taking care of and managing right now, and I've made a decision to outsource that, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And the end of the line. And I think sometimes this world of overwhelm can occur out of fear of having to advocate and sell and persuade that you getting the help that you really, really, really need is worthwhile. And you are worthwhile. So just stop it and go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was also, the major breadwinner. And so I made the financial decisions without interacting with my partner, because it was just a silly dynamic that would happen between us. And I found it to be a total waste of time. And I was all about efficiency. So, but I do hear from women that they feel like, oh, if I'm not doing this task and that task and that task, my partner's going to be judging me because I'm just going to be sitting on the couch eating bonbons. Like this is a thing that is cultural, that is going on in women's heads. And it's like, who cares?
I mean,
What if you do sit on the couch and eat bonbons? Like you're probably going to do that once or twice, and then you're going to get bored and find something that really nourishes your soul. Like, reading or exercising, whatever, something that feels really good. But you don't have to sit there and put up with a person projecting that you're lazy onto you because you're resting. Like, it's okay to rest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would ask, when was the last time you actually ate a bonbon? Have you ever had one in your life? Right? Like
Right.
we often find ways to fill our time differently. I hate that like just that sentiment so much because
Yeah.
I think that we're getting better as a society for accepting that rest is necessary. But also we're not so great yet at talking about that rest looks different for everybody, what that actual definition of rest looks like. Not everybody's sit on the couch and watch Netflix type of person. Not everybody's sit down and read a book. Not everybody's like, let's go out on a hike. You know, the rest really looks different for everybody, and we have to normalize maybe more what it is that you're doing to replenish your spirit and yourself, whatever that is. For me, for a long time, it was like going on a 90-minute run. That's the opposite of rest, but like it centered me and got my mind right. So I think we just have to get past that narrative and just stop, like literally stop feeding the beast. Don't even address it. Just like, that's an interesting perspective and we're going to do this anyway. And then through your actions, you'll demonstrate that instead of cleaning the house, what you were doing was taking care of your fitness or outside playing with your children, or I don't know, whatever it might be.
Yeah. If you are having the expectation that your partner is going to look at you, you might actually believe that they're doing that, and they might not actually be doing that. There's a way that we draw things to ourselves, and often it's just by thinking that it's happening when it in fact isn't. And yes, normalizing rest. I mean, I remember in my marriage, my ex was an early riser and I was not. And he felt a lot of irritation about that. Like, he would compare himself to me, be like, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and getting to work by 6 or 7, and it must be nice to just sleep in. And I was like, well, it must be nice to not have to make a bunch of money. Like, I'm taking care of the finances here. So it's just very funny. So we can recognize that when that dynamic happens with our partner, we don't have to jump down each other's throats, but we could say something like, well, rest is necessary and rest looks different for everyone.
And also, if you're in a household with other family members, children, like just other family members in general, or roommates or whatever you have, communicating to them that these activities are how I rest my mind, or how I rest my body, or how I work through problems in my head. So with my children, often, because I had such a big job where people needed me all of the time, I would walk into the house usually incredibly drained because I had been talking for 12 hours or solving complex problems for days on end, or like whatever it might be, and didn't have enough time between point A and point B to like get myself right. And so often in language that they would understand, I would say to them, mommy needs 30 minutes so that she can stop thinking about all the things she was doing all day. And I'm going to do that by taking a shower or reading a book or cooking dinner in silence. That happened a lot. Like, I needed to be quiet for a little bit because there's so much going on up in my head that I just needed to calm down so that like I get into the space. And by doing that, they then actually started to communicate that on my behalf. So they would tell each other. So if like not all of them were home and somebody came in, they were like, mom's cooking dinner quietly because she's, shutting down her thoughts, or like whatever it was that they could communicate at the ages that they were in. And it also helped with the other adults that were around, because I didn't have to get into that, like, why don't you have time for me? Or why can't you interact with me? Or I've been home all day. Like, you know, give me some attention, or like whatever it is. The children started to create with me collectively an environment that we're just really peaceful right now until we can get into like the next phase of whatever we're doing. And sometimes it was a whole evening where I was like, today was garbage and I cannot make a decision. I can't do anything. But they were, by demonstrating to them and explaining to them and getting them into a rhythm and a routine of understanding, not only have they adopted that in their lives, so they'll tap out and be like, I'm gonna go in my room for an hour because y'all are a lot and I'm done, or school was a lot, or whatever it might be. They were also able to kind of keep homeostasis in the environment when a conflict probably would have ensued if I had tried to communicate it on my behalf.
Yeah, or if you just didn't communicate it and then you
Yeah.
became frustrated and angry and
Yeah.
like frazzled or stormed out, like that's often our response. But when we can communicate it up front, it just, everybody's like, oh, I don't need to make this about me. I don't need to make this some shortcoming of mine. Like, mommy's not angry with me. She's just doing what she needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
like it helps everybody under it, like always, all roads lead back to boundaries and setting expectations, right? And so it creates an understanding and awareness, but also starts to create some commonality of language so that it's more of a check-in instead of a check-out. And I think that being able to find ways, whatever makes sense for the environment that you're in, to kind of flip the script on that a little bit will then help give everybody the permission to do the same when they need to.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking time out and time to decompress and time for yourself. And if we remember that these people are relationships, not tasks, not problems to be solved. When you're a high performance problem solver at work, it can definitely trickle over into your home life. So where you're trying to just manage people instead of relate with them. So it's when we actually communicate and set boundaries, then we're like, oh, this is a collective harmonious environment, rather than I'm feeling attacked or I'm feeling neglected and I need to fight back and I need to get resentful and now I'm going to be overwhelmed. I mean, a lot of us are addicted to chaos. A lot of us are addicted to crisis. It's not our fault. It's just like living on a super hyperdrive for so many years. Your thoughts go and then they create emotions and then they create a physiological response, and then your body's tense and you're not breathing, and then you're putting out a fire that really doesn't have to be there. Like, if you could just breathe and give yourself a minute and set a boundary, there doesn't have to be a fire. And to normalize that for ourselves is a whole practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes, I mean, for me, it took, I learned to meditate. I learned to just observe my thoughts rather than identifying with them. But of course, that is a practice in itself. So each of these things are like tools, like just breathing, just remembering to breathe. I was shocked by how often I was holding my breath throughout.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, and then once I started doing things like breath work or in meditation, I started becoming conscious of, oh, whoa, yeah, it's hard to respond well when you're not breathing. Like, it's a basic.
Yeah, and sleep and eating and, all of those normal human rhythms, when they become secondary or forgotten completely, will impact everything else. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs that I know or people in the corporate world that they wear a badge that says I slept 4 hours last night. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and you're crazy. Like, sleep is an absolute weapon. Like, do you know how on fire I am after having like a full, and for me, 7 hours is like a full night of sleep. It's 7 hours of sleep. Forget it. I'm unstoppable. But if you try to get me to roll for a couple of days on 4 hours of sleep, I'm not making good decisions, really short-tempered, and the same with how you fuel your body. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the hustle and the grind, and to your point, the chaos of things that are going around, we forget there are minimum requirements for us being humans, and that is fueling our bodies well, letting it rest through sleep, and movement. And if you're not checking those boxes, and I'm not talking marathons, I'm not like, go walk around the block, I don't care what you do. Pace in your house while you're on the phone, or like, do whatever you need to do. But if you can't check those boxes most days, you're just heading for crash and burn. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And chronic disease and things that, like, I didn't manifest chronic disease, but I did manifest being 50 pounds overweight by not breathing, by not moving, because I was manning that desk 12 hours a day. Like it was some kind of, like I was a hero. So
I'm sure you have a cape back there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of things done. I made some differences, and that was cool. But when it's at the expense of yourself, when you wake up and realize, oh, if I don't take care of my body, I'm not going to be doing anything.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh wow, I need to reprioritize my life, and then you can't just reprioritize what you're doing. You have to actually communicate that to people, and
Absolutely.
that can be so scary, but it really doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Melissa, how do people find you and work with you, and who are your most ideal clients?
So our fractional COO clients are businesses that are at 3 million plus. So that's at the point where we have found that you know what you're doing, you know what you're selling, you know who you're serving, you've got predictable revenue, and we can really dive in from a fractional COO perspective and help augment your team and get you to the next set of goals or aspirations that you have. We do work with businesses smaller than that. So we have some business consulting offerings as well for the 6 and 7 figure entrepreneur. And all of that information is available at melissafranks.com. If anybody has more questions on what's on there, you can definitely book a free consultation call as well. We do those, which are lots of fun. We can get a lot done in 30 minutes. And then just to stay on track, you can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are probably the two other great places to connect.
Amazing. And do you have anything you want to leave the audience with, a last thought? Or
I would say that one of the things that I would recommend to everybody is that exercise that I was talking about at the beginning. Spend a little bit of quiet time today or the weekend or your next vacation and really think about what you're working towards. What is the life that you want? Who are you with? Where are you living? How are you spending your time? Regardless of what work you do and who you do it for, understanding what your North Star is going to provide you clarity, and it's going to help you determine what you do and don't want to do as you move forward in your journey.
yeah, I love that. It's imperative to know where you want to go, and don't lie to yourself.
100%. Yep.
Really, it's okay. You don't have to be super noble. Just like, what do you really want? Sky's the limit. Imagine it, and you can create it.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here, Melissa. It was great meeting you, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. It was wonderful.